There's a realistic chance Detroit finishes over 41 wins after their over-under for the year was set at 24.5. We're going to be looking at Tankathon's strength of schedule and figuring out kind of what the Detroit Pistons need to do, who they play, looking at some of the opponents in the standings and what they need to do to lock up a top 6 seed and to avoid the play-in entirely and just outright make the playoffs. This video will mark 14 straight days of Detroit Pistons uploads, and it's not going to stop here. We're going to keep rolling with it. But getting right into it, the first thing I noticed here is Milwaukee at number 1 with a 524 strength of schedule. That's a noticeable difference from Detroit at a 499. And they're only one game ahead of Detroit going into the All-Star break. And that doesn't end there. Looking at their easiest opponents, 2 Phoenix, 2 Atlanta, 2 Miami, 1 Philly. Those are supposed to be their easy opponents. If you look at Toronto, 2 Chicago, 2 Brooklyn, 2 Charlotte, 2 Utah, 3 Washington. That's not going to be a cakewalk for Milwaukee in any regard. That aren't necessarily the worst. I would still consider them middling teams. When you see Detroit, I would consider them having easy opponents, but maybe not to the extreme of a Toronto who has 3 against the Wizards. But Detroit has 2 Washington, 2 New Orleans, 1 Utah, 1 Toronto, 1 Brooklyn, 1 Portland. That's very comparable to what Indiana has. And they're only a few games behind Indiana right now. But the teams that are going to be challenging Detroit for that 6th seed are the ones right behind them in the strength of schedule. Atlanta, Orlando, Miami. Those are really the 3 you have to worry about. And it's good to know that the 499 to the 478 isn't a huge difference in the grand scheme of things when you're looking at the matchups. But what Detroit cannot afford to do is play down to their competition. They have to handle those games, and they have to treat them like they did to Chicago or Charlotte when they were able to create those big leads. And if they can put their foot down on them, I have no doubt they're going to finish with that 6th seed, because I think no matter what, they're going to be able to take some of these games against their tougher opponents. 2 against OKC, 1 Cleveland, 1 Boston, 1 New York, 1 Memphis, 1 Nuggets. They could probably steal 2 or 3 of those out of that. But they cannot afford to play with their food with those easy opponents. They can't lose both of the rest of the Washington games. They don't have that luxury when you're trying to be a 6 seed. Also, looking a little bit deeper into the schedule, they have 10 games where they have more rest than their opponents. So that's going to be a key factor in making sure you handle business and you're not letting a tired team beat you. But overall, a lot could happen for Detroit to end this year. Let's just hope they finish it strong. Thank you for joining me. Have a good day.